So, because of the controversy behind Ezra Miller, I've seen a lot of you guys say you're not going to go support this movie. And while I do understand that, you have to also understand that Ezra Miller has already been paid. So, not supporting this movie, I don't think is going to really affect his paycheck too much. But I want to make a spoiler video here because I want to. There's people who want to know what actually happens. I was kind of teasing it in the non spoiler yesterday, and there's some really big stuff in this movie that I want to discuss. So if you do not want to be spoiled on this film and you want to go see it next month, that's fine. I want to once again reiterate this is not the video for you, but once again, I saw a cut that may not be the final cut yesterday, last night, during this early critic screening. I think if you were to ask me how much of this will be in the final cut, I'm going to say pretty much almost all of it because the changes that they made definitely fit in line with what James Gunn's been teasing about rebooting the DCEU. But um, it can still be changed because in my screening we did not get a post credit scene. Now, if you go back, and I'm gonna make this very clear to you guys, about 11 months ago, I did a spoiler video here on the channel before there was ever even a Flash trailer, and I told y'all beat for beat what the plot was of this film, and 95% of that literally is this movie. So if you want to go back and listen to that video, because the first two acts of this film, there are some small changes. I'm going to go into them here in the spoiler review, but I highly recommend you hear that video first from 11 months ago because literally, dude, there was very few things that did not happen that were in that version. I'm going to go over some of that here in this video today, the spoiler video. Now, I'm going to say something very important here. You need to stay till the end of this video. You need to stay till the very end because I'm saving the last spicy spoiler, what they added, which rocked my world. I am saving that for the end of this video because I'm still in shock they did this. I'm not upset about it, and it's obviously a nostalgia thing, but I couldn't even believe they did this, yo. Like this is something that has not leaked anywhere from what I've seen. I couldn't even believe it. So again, stay till the end. Trust me, I would not lie to you about this. This is not for engagement. No, trust me, stay till the end. And I also want to tell you that the changes that I'm talking about, most of them were in the last maybe 10, 15 minutes of the movie. I'm not sure how much of that were alternate cuts that Ezra Miller already shot or if it was new stuff. I don't know. There's a lot of mysteries behind this movie as far as what was shot and what wasn't shot. So, I want to first start off, again, spoilers, here we go. I did like the movie. I didn't love it like, I didn't love it like I was like just creaming about it, but it was really good to see Michael Keaton again as Batman. I had been waiting for that moment since I was a little boy. I saw Batman 89 when I was like 6. Not in theaters, but I saw it on VHS at home, and that's always been my Batman. You understand what I'm saying? That is my Batman. Well, seeing him come back and don the cape and cowl once again and hear the music, the scene where he opens up the Batcave and you see all the bat suits, my audience was losing their freaking minds. I'm going to get to that big spoiler here later. So, first of all, what did they change from what I reported? Again, if you have not heard the original spoiler video, go check it out now because this would be a great time to go listen to that because that is the movie, except there were some changes. First of all, when Flash is going back in time, doing the Flashpoint time travel technique, in the spoiler video that I mentioned, they did address the Snyder Cut. It was confusing. I even asked my source, "Are you sure about this?" He's like, "Yes, they addressed that Barry went back in time in the Snyder Cut, even though in DC that never happened because the Snyder Cut is not canon to the movies. It's the Whedon cut." I don't like it either, but it is what it is. So instead, what they did was the scene where Bruce is talking to Barry about time travel has been cut differently to where Bruce is telling him, look, like this is very dangerous. You don't want to mess with the space time continuum. Basic warnings here. This is obviously Bruce, Ben Affleck Bruce. When he's going back in time, they tease what I'm going to guess is it's not Reverse Flash. I want to make this clear. It is not Reverse Flash, although it was definitely inspired by Reverse Flash. There's no argument this was inspired by Reverse Flash, where he's seeing like a monster as he's going back in time. And the way that time travel works, and I said this in the other video, it's like a Coliseum type of thing where he's looking around him and he's seeing these images. And the images are usually from either the movie that we're seeing or from previous films. Like for example, they show images of like the grave where his mom died and things like that, just his whole life. Because he has to know where he's going. So he keeps going back. And, obviously takes the tomato can and, puts it in her shopping cart to make sure she gets it, the tomato sauce can, so that way she doesn't end up getting killed, right? And we actually see her dying in the film. Like we see her, she's in the kitchen with a knife through her chest, and his dad is like, call the cops. So they also did recast the father too. It's actually the guy from Office Space. That was kind of interesting. So they showed this Reverse Flash guy a bit more than I thought, and there's a big moment later in the movie. I'm going to get to it here in a minute. So everything happens the way I reported. They go back in time. They meet up with But first of all, Barry tries to Google like Diana Prince, tries to Google, Arthur Curry, and there's a scene where he actually calls the lighthouse, and Tamora Morrison is in this movie. And he's like, did you marry an aquatic mermaid woman? And he looks over and it's some like overweight lady. And he's like, like screw you, and hangs up the phone. So what we find out, and we find this out from Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne. And for some reason that Bruce Wayne knows. I don't know why, but he knows how time travel works. Bruce Wayne's always been very intelligent, but I didn't know he was this smart. Where in the DC universe, what Flash is doing when he goes back in time and he makes a change, it splinters off. Like he actually, it was actually very well done because they used Back to the Future as a reference. He's like, you think time travel works like this, where you go back in time, make a change, and it makes a split timeline. That's not how it works. It's more like the timelines kind of cross, right? And so because you are already messing with the space-time continuum, you're affecting all of history. So basically, and he explains it better in the movie than I did, guys. Just try to follow me here. When Barry goes back in time, even though like he didn't mean to, he basically was merging the timelines. In other words, there were things happening in the Michael Keaton universe that were not supposed to happen. Like, for example, Zod. Zod does not exist. This would all lead to the Barrys obviously trying to go rescue who they thought was Clark Kent, Kal-El, but actually it's Supergirl in this universe because everything's changed. So everything I said in the spoiler video, it plays out just like that. The only difference is there's a scene where Barry, and now this was probably in the original movie, I don't think this was added, but I wasn't told this by my source. Barry from the present, or from the past Barry, is talking to Supergirl, and he's basically telling her like, hey, like, she gets her powers back after going into the yellow sun, right? It makes sense. Telling her like, hey, like, we have to save these people, and she's like, I got here and all they did was imprison me. Because basically when she arrived on Earth, the Russians got her and trapped her, right? So she leaves. Then she goes to see Michael Shannon, once again playing Zod. Didn't do much in this movie. I was hoping for more Michael Shannon because he's awesome. Didn't do much. And also I should say the Batwing in this movie is not the same one. It has been upgraded and it does some pretty cool new tricks. Obviously, the original Batwing was blown away by Joker in the 89 movie. Which, by the way, there's a scene in the movie. Remember how at the end of Batman 89, he has that thing in his pocket that laughs for him? Barry from the past finds it and like goes, look what I found. You hear, like that was a great Easter egg. And don't even get me started on the fact that we hear the classic Danny Elfman Batman theme multiple times. Multiple versions too. Dude, it was nuts, bro. Everybody's going crazy. And there's a scene where when they break into the Russian facility, Batman is such a fucking badass, bro. He's over here taking on soldiers. Like, remember the scene in the Batman v Superman when Ben Affleck's Batman like fights off, like saves Clark's mom, Martha. It's like that. Not as bloody, but he's just smashing these dudes, doing reverse roundhouse kicks, ninja stuff. Like he was more impressive here than in any of the actual Tim Burton Batman movies. You know what I'm saying? It was phenomenal. So, again, they have a scene where she kind of has second thoughts about saving the humans, but she quickly realizes that, Zod is evil. And then she helps Barry go up to the skies and he gets his powers back, just like I said in the spoiler video that I put out almost a year ago. All of that plays out the same. Now, when they go fight General Zod, what happens, and this is something that was detailed, that was not detailed to me, so it was either changed or I was never told. Batman and Supergirl die twice. Now, you're probably wondering how they die twice, because Zod stabs her with that knife thing, that little needle thing in her head when she's not looking, she's distracted, and then Batman fires these missiles at one of the Zod ships, and the ship blows him out of the sky and he dies. But what happens is, past Barry, 2013 Barry, goes back in time. They both go back in time and try to redo the events to change it. So they go back in time to redo the events, but then guess what happens? They die again, but a different way. And then future Barry, or present Barry, the one that we know from the Justice League movie and the previous Flash movies, he brings up a point that Michael Keaton made earlier. There's a scene where he uses spaghetti to kind of describe like how the multiverse works. And he's like, the problem with messing with time travel is, and this is very similar to how Marvel tried to explain it with the TVA in Loki. If you go back in time and change one thing, and that can create a chain effect where you create multiple universes, multiple strands of time. Everything starts getting all messed up, and it creates he basically drops the spaghetti on the plate, and he's like, "This is what it turns into, mush." Like you have to be careful messing with time travel, which is true. I mean, that's all true. So what happens is, after 2 attempts to change the present, because basically Bruce explains to them there are some events that cannot be changed, like fate. There are some events that just cannot be changed no matter what. Now, this is obviously going to go into a much deeper topic about time travel. Maybe I'll do a separate video about that if you guys want me to, because I love time travel stuff. But basically, he explains that there are some events that just have to happen a certain way. And because of that, present Flash realizes that Bruce Wayne was supposed to die that day. Like Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne was supposed to die that day against Zod, and Supergirl's supposed to die, because they try to reverse it twice and it doesn't do anything. And then he starts getting worried about it. He's like, we can't continue to mess with the past, yo. So he tries to tell present Barry, or past Barry. Present Barry tells past Barry, listen, we got to stop this. This is not going to work. But past Barry does not listen. And then what happens is, as we also, I was going to tell you this also, present Barry does not tell past Barry that he went back in time to save the mom. He does not tell him that, right? But he does teach him how to use the Speed Force and things like that. We see a lot of the Flash powers like phasing through walls and all kinds of cool stuff that I never thought we'd ever see in a movie. So that was cool. But Barry from the past ends up overhearing a conversation between Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne and present Barry about the mom dying. Because the whole thing is, this whole story here is that Bruce Wayne can both Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne can relate, because they lost their parents. And but Bruce Wayne tells him, me losing my parents turned me into this crime fighter. Like I became Batman because of that, which obviously many of you know is true. So had that not happened, Gotham may have been completely screwed. You understand what I'm saying? So what happens is, present Barry tells past Barry, you have to stop. We have to go back and mom has to die. This was really powerful stuff. This was not in the version that I was told about. I'm not sure if this was reshot or maybe my source didn't see the final cut. I don't know, but this part was not there. The rest of the movie was there. Like everything he told me was super 100% on the nose. This is the one where it's like, okay, it's a little weird. So, and what I was mentioning earlier about like the scene that was moved around, like I said, when Supergirl leaves, and there's a scene where she goes to look at Zod, and Zod can like sense her, and she ends up. So that was cut and moved to earlier in the film. Not a big deal. But let me get back to my point. I don't want to confuse you guys. So President Barry realizes mom has to die because that one little change of letting his mom survive created a chain reaction that messed up the timelines, which is exactly how Doc Brown described it and how Bruce Wayne from the future, like Ben Affleck, explained to Barry, like, this is, you cannot mess with time because this is going to end up causing a major issue. So here's what happens. All of a sudden, that monster from earlier attacks. Then we find out that that monster from earlier is actually past Barry. So what happens is past Barry became so consumed with changing the timeline that he continuously went back in time, back in time, back in time. And the way they did this is it was Ezra Miller, but with like effects to make him look older, or it may have been a different actor. I think it was just Ezra Miller. I couldn't even tell you because it was, he was wearing like the Flash mask and it was all crusty, and so he's like, you know, so basically what happens is the Barry from the past that gets the Speed Force does not want to lose mom, so he keeps going back over and over again. The problem is that he's going back over and over again because, and so earlier in the movie that Barry knocks present Barry into like the timeline, the 2013 timeline, purposely because he needed him to do that to give that Barry the powers. I hope I'm not confusing you guys. There's a lot. This time travel shit can be really confusing. Okay, I don't blame you if you are confused. I'm trying to explain it the best I can. So basically, again, to simplify it, past Barry does not want to let mom die. In that timeline, mom never died, but present Barry realizes that she has to die or else the world is fucked because Zod is about to terraform the planet and there is no one to stop him. We find out in the movie that baby Kal-El was sent to Earth and that Zod found him when he was still a baby, tried to extract the DNA, found out it wasn't his DNA, it was actually Kara's, aka Supergirl, and killed the baby. And then when she finds out, because they're cousins, she freaking snaps and they start fighting. She's beating his ass. So basically, Kal-El is dead. Zod killed him in this timeline. And we don't know where Aquaman is. I guess in this timeline he was never born because, like, Tamora Morrison never met the ocean chick. And we don't even know where Diana is. And by the way, Wonder Woman is in the movie earlier in the film. She does help out with the Justice League. Like, she actually helps out, which was cool. Like, it was cool seeing the league, like, working together. So, what happens is they get into a big argument. There's 3 different Flashes, and they're arguing and this is in the middle of this is actually in the middle of the time sphere. As they're going back in time, right, that Coliseum area where it represents, like, the timeline, they're arguing in that sort of time realm. And the Barry that's old and decrepit and, like the Reverse Flash, he wants his mom to survive. He's like, you don't understand. So he tries to kill present time Barry. And then past Barry, not the evil one that was corrupted, the regular one gets in the way, takes the hit, and dies. When he dies, as he's dying, the corrupted Barry disappears because he never existed, right? And so past Barry Allen dies in the arms of present Barry Allen. So he's watching himself die. I said on Twitter this movie has a lot of Ezra Miller, and it does. This Ezra Miller is playing in scenes with himself for about 90% of the movie, y'all. Like, if you don't like Ezra Miller, dude, you're going to get a lot of him here. But again, if you like 89 Batman, you're going to enjoy that too. And the movie's still good. I mean, if you can remove what Ezra Miller did in real life, if you can take that out of your head, you might enjoy the movie. I enjoyed it because I removed that from my head. Not everybody can do that. I respect it. So so again, this whole sequence that I'm telling you about was not in the original story, because in the original story, they were able to defeat Zod. They were able to beat Zod. Then the post-credit scene, or the mid-credit scene, Barry goes back to the future. This is in the original version that I told y'all about. And all of a sudden, Supergirl and Keaton are in the main timeline. And they don't have no idea why. They have no clue why that is. And that's the cliffhanger. And then he goes back to the Batcave. So there's a scene with Jason Momoa being drunk or whatever as Aquaman. He goes to he goes home and he gets a signal from the Batcave from Ben Affleck Bruce saying that he's stuck in another timeline, and that was the post credit scene. None of that was in the version I saw. So I know that that scene was shot. I know it exists. I don't know if we're ever gonna see it or if they're gonna tag it on to the end of the new movie. I don't think so because Affleck and Gunn are pretty much confirming he's not gonna be Batman anymore. So that sucks. But basically, what ends up happening is when both iterations of past Barry die, present Barry has to go back to the moment where he put the tomato can in the shopping cart, right? And take it out of the shopping cart. He dresses up in a disguise, right? He's got to get the disguise on, and he sees his mom. She doesn't recognize him because at this point he's still a baby, right? This is like deeper into the past, and it's a really emotional scene because he starts crying and he's like, in the version I was told about, he says, I'm about to lose my mom. But in this version, he tells her, I lost my mom recently. And then they hug and she like wipes his tears. And it's really emotional, dude, because he's literally about to sacrifice his mom again after seeing her, for the first time in years alive. It's really sad, dude. Trust me when I tell you, it's really sad. So what ends up happening is he goes over to the tomato where the tomatoes are at, the tomato sauce aisle, and he puts all of them on the upper shelf. Now the reason why he did this is because earlier in the movie they found security cam footage of his dad being at the grocery store getting that piece of tomato sauce, that can, but he was wearing a hat. So you could not see his face, and thus it wasn't enough evidence to clear his alibi, right? But what he did was he saw a security camera, he moved the tomato cans up, he goes back to the future, and this time, because his head was up looking at tomato cans, he was exonerated, so Barry's dad goes free. Happy ending, good stuff. It was great, but there's still one more thing. Well, there's two more things I want to tell you about. First of all, Iris. Iris's character in this movie is extremely unrealistic. Iris is so thirsty for Barry. I understand that. Okay, I understand that, like, in real life, girls can be thirsty over a guy, but in this movie, she kind of overdid it, in my opinion. You may not agree, but she was literally doing all the work. She was setting up dates. She was like giving him the look, like she was flirting, like she was really, really trying to get this guy to go out with her, and he was almost oblivious to it, but which is weird because he's had a crush on her for like a long time. In fact, there's a scene where when he goes back and meets Past Barry for the first time, Past Barry is about to go on a date with her in that timeline. So that obviously means that his mom dying changed him completely, which it does. I mean, it's depression. So I didn't like the way they wrote Iris at all. Just keeping it real with you. Let me get to the final scene of the movie. So in the final scene of the movie, he's walking out of the courthouse with Iris, gets a call from Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck, or so we think. All right, he's like, okay, I'll see you outside. So the Mercedes pulls up, the Wayne Mercedes pulls up. You see a footstep out the door. Now, in the original ending, it's supposed to be Michael Keaton. That's not what we got here. Instead, they cut to Ezra Miller Barry going, "Who the hell is that?" Fade to black. Now, there's a rumor going around that it was George Clooney. I don't believe that at all. I guess that could be a fake rumor being spread out or something. It's probably not going to be Val Kilmer. It could be Christian Bale, but the bottom line is somebody steps out and it fades to black. Now, there's one more thing I want to tell you about. This is the most amazing scene in the entire movie. I'm not done yet. I'm not done. So that's how the movie ends until they add the post-credit scene. But there's a scene earlier when Flash is going back in time and starts to mess up the space-time continuum. They literally show multiple universes, like in like balls, sort of like how it was described in the MCU with the incursions, or like Whis in Dragon Ball Super described it, and they're colliding, but we're seeing into the balls, right? I swear to God, they show the black and white Superman from the 40s. They show Christopher Reeve's Superman. They CGI'd Christopher Reeve bro, the entire movie theater exploded, dude. There were people crying in that motherfucker. They showed Christopher Reeve and Supergirl. They showed the Adam West Batman, guys. I'm not shitting you. And then they showed the Nicolas Cage Superman fighting the spider robot from the unreleased Superman Lives movie that Tim Burton was going to direct in 98. I am not making this up, yo. I'm still in shock. Nicolas Cage's Superman from that means in another timeline, that Superman existed. Now, you're probably wondering, what about the CW? I did not see the CW, but there was a lot of characters, so maybe I missed it. My friends did not see the CW characters like Arrow and their version of Flash, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be in the final cut, nor does it mean they weren't there. It just, the scene goes by quickly. I swear, when I saw Adam West, I lost it. Everybody was losing it. The Nicolas Cage reference, dude, that is one of the deepest Easter egg cuts I've ever seen. If you're curious about that, look up a movie called The Death of Superman Lives. Goes into all of that. Goes into all of that story. Unbelievable. I wish I was in the theater with Kevin Smith when he sees this movie. To see, and Tim Burton. Wow. Wow. So that scene right there, yes, it was a nostalgia berry, but seeing Christopher Reeve, I couldn't even believe it. I could not believe that Christopher Reeve is in this. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I'm still shocked. And they even went all the way back to the black and white Superman. Leap tall building in a single bound. That scene right there. Again, if you're a fan of the Flash comics, you might not like this movie, but if you're a fan of DC, holy moly. I've been wanting to talk about this for so long, yo. I don't even know what to say. I don't know what to say. Yeah, so that's the Flash from the version I saw. Swear to God, that's what happened. I have no words. Like that scene right there, seeing all the different DC universes there, like all the different movie universes. I was looking for like Christian Bale and like Val Kilmer. Didn't see that, but they might add those. Like I said, the movie starts with the director telling us that the movie's unfinished. This might not be the version that gets released in June. So there you go. Anyways, I had fun. There's your spoiler. If you didn't want to go support Ezra, even though it doesn't support Ezra, but if you didn't want to, there you go. Yeah, that scene right there might be worth the price of admission, in my opinion. Anyways, take care. I'll see you soon.